I think this is a video that's, was bound to happen at some point. It's a pretty personal topic, but I think it's one that directly kind of correlates and answers a lot of questions that I get from people. And it's probably one of the hardest questions to answer because it's a big long form kind of version of I'm not entirely sure, right? But one of the things that I'm always talking about or trying to teach in these lessons that's more of a philosophy than a hard skill in a way is how to listen and encouraging listening more than speaking. I think that's true for a lot of life, but I think it's especially true for musicians who want to play music, especially with other musicians. But the question is how do you develop how you hear what you want to play? I have that video of how to play what's in your head and all this stuff that's kind of associated with that topic. And I think the only way that I can really explain my journey as a musician to get to that point where there's certain melodies that I hear in my head that inform the way that I play, that is the culmination, years and years of hearing stuff and trying stuff and being in my lab, my musical lab, it culminates in what you hear now, which is my style, right? Style. And so people are did you what was your practice routine, or what were you doing? And the answer is it's a long journey with some very not some stuff that's hard and just a product of life, and that isn't fun to talk about, and it's kind of embarrassing, or I feel shame around it. And I'm not going to beat around the bush, but I think some of the things that I experienced are a direct influence on how I became the musician I am today. So if you have watched any of my videos and you're kind of curious at how I became this type of guitar player, it's probably because a large part of it, beyond just I don't know, the unexplainable stuff, the God's gift, or I was just born that way, genetics. I don't know how much of that is true with music. Are people just born with an ear? I have no idea. But the hard reality is, when I was growing up, when I was younger, I just perpetually didn't really I got along with people and I fitted in, but I never felt truly compelled, or I never felt like I wanted to spend time with the people I was around growing up. I was around a lot of people that did drugs, and getting effed up on the weekend was the main thing to do, and there wasn't a lot to do in the South Bay. It was South Bay of California. It's pretty suburban. And I escaped a lot of the traumas and stuff in my life through weed, through smoking a lot of weed. And I'm not saying that weed made me a good musician. I'm not saying that. But what it did do when I would isolate myself is I would listen to music. And when my brain was forming at that time, I was probably like 14 or 15, and I'm 31 now. I think it allowed me to, when my brain was in such a formative stage, was allow me to start hearing things in a way that I hadn't heard before, and it was at the right time that it instilled some good listening habits very early on, so that I could, as my brain continued to develop, I could actually synthesize what the heck was going on, and develop a stronger sense of melodic and harmonic intuition. But the byproduct of that isolation was that I felt very lonely. I suffered from depression for a very long time, and I isolated a lot. And during that time, I played hours and hours and hours of guitar. Probably for like 10 years of my life, most of my free time was spent getting stoned and playing guitar. And so when people are like, how did you get so good? Like all that time that I spent just kind of like creating a drone or a loop, like what I was showing you, I was escaping the harsh realities of my life and the things that made life more difficult for me. I was escaping through music. I was using music in combination with a drug, but as a drug itself. And because I got high off music in that way, I never practiced. It was always playing, and it was always escaping and finding melody and finding some way to just express myself. Because I just felt like I had so much. Music was my only outlet. It was my only. It was the only thing. Honestly, it's the only reason I'm sitting here. I've had multiple friends that I grew up with are no longer with me. They're dead for one reason or another. I'm thankful that I turned out the way that I did. I have a good job. I got a good education, all while doing the drug addiction thing. And I just hit a year of sobriety on the 15th. And all this stuff is changing in my life. I mean, even the YouTube stuff is starting to happen. Is it coincidence? I have no idea. I don't know. But it's important for me to tell this story because I have a hard time explaining to people, why I am the way that I am as a musician. I think I have developed a unique style almost out of desperation for me to like stay alive through my own music or something. I know that sounds very like emo or something, and I don't feel that sad anymore. I mean, a lot has changed in my life, and I'm more genuinely happy and stable and all that stuff. But there were some dark periods of my life, and music was the thing that carried me through. And I think that's a hard thing to communicate to people of like, hey man, I never practiced because I was using guitar to basically, have a reason to like go look forward to each day, But there are some distilled skills and memories that I have that I can share with you guys beyond just telling you this kind of sob story or whatever. That is a direct byproduct, things that I'm very grateful of. And I remember like listening to the Allman Brothers or the Grateful Dead when I was really young, maybe like 13, 14, 15, around that area. And I remember I would sit like in memory of Elizabeth Reed. And I would listen to different live versions and the album, and I would hear, at the time I was like, who's soloing? I couldn't tell the difference between Dwayne and Dickie. And I'm lucky that I was young enough. When I was 15, it was probably like 2009, 2010. And so YouTube was like 2 or 3, or maybe it came out like 2006. It was only a couple years old at the time, but there was all this music that was being uploaded. And they would be like horribly like super low quality videos, like 240p. The audio is like pretty bad. But like all this cool stuff I'd never heard. Mahogany Rush, Frank Marino. He's somebody that like nobody ever talks about, but there was videos of that guy, Quicksilver Messenger Service, these old videos of like Deep Purple where Richie Blackmore's playing with an orchestra and like shredding. And when I was like 15 or 16, oh my God, it was just a time for me to just synthesize music. I remember listening to this version of Derek Trucks doing Desdemona. I think it's 2003 or 2008, one of those years, I can't remember. And he's playing slide and he's doing all this stuff that just like changed. I didn't know a guitar could sound the way that he was playing it. And so, you know, tons of hours after high school, I would like, you know, smoke some weed, and I had this like 45-minute walk home, and I would just put in my little Skull Candy earbuds and just put on a guitar solo, you know, Bad Reputation by Thin Lizzy, and listen to Scott Gorham. Do those types of things, and it blew my mind. And it was hours and 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 hours of listening and also playing. So when people ask, maybe I'll just point them to this video because it's a long, rambly video of me explaining I didn't do anything special. I don't think I was born in any special way or anything like that. Guitar was a crutch for a long time, and I think it just developed. It was this marriage of something that I think I'm naturally pretty, you know, good at, just because like I'm not very tall, but my hands are gigantic for how tall I am, and just a love for it. So maybe it's like this aptitude, and then the love for listening. For some reason, sound and harmony and music is like a shortcut to my amygdala. It just activates my emotional center in my brain. And I just think I lucked out, you know, like I think it was a weird set of circumstances. If I could go back in time and change my life, I probably would, to be honest. But the reality is, if I did that, I would not be the guitar player I am today. So, you know, take that as you will. There's no shortcut to learning guitar, but I think saturating yourself in a listening state is always a good thing. And any good musician that you've heard probably has done that same thing. They've listened to a lot. And maybe they feel the same way about music. Maybe it's not like work or whatever for them. It's an escape or something. So if you're struggling with music and it feels like practice or whatever, just know that there's different mentalities around it. I never looked at it as practice. It was like every little thing I learned felt like some escape to some place. And when I'd put on a loop, you know, even just of a E to an F sharp, which was the same exact chord progression in my Lydian lesson. When I put on a progression like this, now that I'm older, it's more of like a memory to those times. But at the time, it was, I don't know how to explain it, man. It was just like my reason for living. It was like the truth, or like, it was like some thing that existed beyond the troubles of like life. Like human issues, you know, music is something that exists at a higher level of consciousness, or like a higher plane. And we're lucky if we fall in love with music. It's something that we can do for the rest of our lives, as long as our faculty and our, you know, ability to function as humans maintains. But I hope this is what I'm greeted with when, you know, life is at its end for me, you know, this type of, this, whatever this energy is. I know I'm getting like super philosophical or whatever, but this is just a video that needed to happen sometime. This is genuinely how I feel. If this turns a lot of people off, I understand. I get it. I'm probably speaking in a language that people don't really get, but it's my kind of reality, and it's the reason why I am the way I am, and it's the thing that's really hard for me to explain. So beyond like learning theory and technical stuff and hard work, the thing that pushed me to do that is everything I just talked about. And now the product of that is that I can express myself, usually. And that's a beautiful thing. And, you know, I think people like to listen to it. I'm not saying me, but like when people can genuinely express themselves. Like Alyssa Liu, the figure skater from Oakland, which I now live, it's where I live. When I watched her do her routine, man, it like made me tear up because she was just being authentic to herself and expressing herself, and that's just beautiful. And it's the thing that I think we should all strive for when we're creating art. You know? And that ties into some other stuff I said in some other videos where, like, if you're playing in that How to Be a Better Bandmate video, if you're playing to impress other people, you're not doing it, man. You're not doing it. You need to be playing stuff that makes you happy. Anywho, I've been rambling for way too long. Thanks for, if you stuck with me during this, thank you. I appreciate you. I love you. And hopefully this explains something. If it doesn't, that's totally fine. I get it. I think I'm making this video for me, honestly. But maybe there's something in here that you learned. Cool. I will be back with more videos about things that actually matter to you guys. All right. See ya.